Hello creative friends, this is Joy. So this is part 2 of creating my custom planner. So here I'm trying to plan out my pages as far as like the monthly view and then the weekly view. So I'm looking at a calendar, and this is just a piece of 8.5 by 11 scrap paper that I decided to do it on, and I folded it in half, and it looks like it was the perfect size for my pages. And so I'm just trying to figure out like how many for the monthly view rows and columns that I'm going to need in a grid in order to create that for my monthly view pages. So here, obviously I need 7 rows because there's, 7 days in the week. And for the whole month, I figured up I'm going to need 7 columns and 5 rows. I figured 5 rows would be enough, and then 7 columns. So here I'm just trying to divide up the space that I have in order to gain the most amount of real estate, I guess you could say, for each of the days, so that I have room in there, to write simple things like, maybe birthdays, or, like a meeting or something like that. And these ended up being a lot smaller than I would have liked, but they worked out okay. I mean, I think that there's going to be enough room. I believe, if I remember right, each column was like 75.75 inches wide. It wasn't quite an inch. I kind of would have liked to have an inch by an inch tall. So, I mean, like I said, I would have liked it to, be a little bit bigger for a little bit more, writing. But if I'm careful, and write small, I can put some, main things on this calendar. So here I am using a black pen because I want to be able to print this. Once I create this, I want to be able to print this 12 times for 12 months. And I made a mistake here. I should have done the rows first and then the columns, but I did the columns first. And now I'm doing the rows, and I realized that the top, because I did leave room at the top where I was going to put like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday across the top, and then also put like the month. But then I realized that I went all the way up to the top, and that should have been left blank. So instead of redoing the whole friggin' thing, I just used, as you saw there, some whiteout to fix that. And once I printed it, you couldn't even tell, because I'm like, well, I'm printing this off, so hopefully you won't be able to see, anything from the whiteout, which you couldn't. By the time I printed it off, it looked fine. So this is basically just a template that I'm creating for myself. And then here is going to be the rows for the weekly. So I need 7 rows, and obviously for the weekly view I want a lot more room so that I can actually write and plan out my week. And so I'm trying to figure out what will give me the most amount of space for each day of the week. And obviously I need 7 rows, so that's what I did there. I believe these were like 2 inches tall by 5.5 inches wide, if I remember right. So as you can see, since this half page that I have is about the size of my pages in my book, then you know, it's gonna be cover, you know, the page in my book quite a bit. So again, you know, this is just creating a template, and I'm trying to make sure it's neat so that when I print it off, you know, because I'm going to have to print this now 300, let's see, sorry, 52 times, because there's 52 weeks in a year. So I'm going to have to print this off 52 times. So there's my template. So here I have them all printed. So I did the monthly view 12 times, and then I put one of the weekly views over the monthly so that I'd have two on a page, and printed that um, another 40 times, because since I had 12 of them here printed with the monthly view, and I needed 52, that means I had to print, well, 20 more pages actually, because there was two per page, but I needed 40 more weekly views. So here is where I go to trim these down, and I decided that I wanted to leave just a tiny, like a 16th of an inch border all the way around each one of these. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just trying to trim it down, you know, just so it's got a tiny bit of a border. So I do that on the weekly view and on the monthly view here. And I'm, you know, trying to make sure that, you know, it's somewhat even. And of course, I printed exactly what I needed, and a couple of these got kind of messed up, so I ended up having to reprint. So there you can see the monthly view is going to be there, the weekly view is going to be on the next page. So that looks like that fits great. So I proceeded to cut them all up. So here they're all cut. I got 12 monthly views and 52 weekly views. Now this is a stamp set that I wanted to use. It's Dylusion stamp set for my months. I thought it had the weeks, but it didn't, you know, where it'd say Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but it didn't. It just had the month, and then it had numbers, I believe. But the numbers were too big, and there was two different sizes for the months. So again, in that top section, I was hoping to do, you know, like the days, and then also add the month. So I'm like, well, I'm gonna have to use the smaller month. But when I pulled out my stamps to try to find days that I could add to this, the smallest ones that I found that I liked, which were these here, and I'm putting them backwards because when I turn it over to stamp, obviously I want Monday to be first. And actually I ended up switching this around, because I ended up doing Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I ended up going by what it showed on my calendar on my phone, and it started on Sunday. In my current bullet journal that I have now, I've been start my week off on Monday, but I decided for this, for next year, I'm going to start it off to match like what it shows in my calendar. So I got my ink, and I put my days on there, and then I stamped January, but it was, you know, really a tight squeeze to get it in there. So then I stamped my days. I was like, I don't know if I care for that, because that's really tight. I thought it, you know, would be more room to do that. So I stamped my days on the next one, and then I decided, rather than trying to squeeze the month in there, that I would just put the days. So I kind of scrapped that one, and like I said, you know, I had to reprint some of these. So because I messed that one up with the month, then I had to print up another one so that I could just put the days. And then I decided that I would use the bigger months on this stamp set to stamp the month. So I have this Dylusions block, I guess you can call it, that I decided to use. And I'm just trying to figure out, where I want to put it, how much space do I want to allow, that kind of stuff. And I thought, well, I like the width of this paper. This was just some scrap paper that was left over. So I put as many as I could on here that would fit on the paper. And I inked them up really, really good and then stamped them down. And I did not do enough pressure for that February, so I took a black pen and I just kind of fixed that a little bit. And so I made sure when I was stamping additional months that I, really inked up well and pressed down well so that I could get a good impression. So that was the only one, luckily, that kind of didn't turn out so good. So I went through and stamped all of the months for the year. So then once I got them all stamped up, I ended up cutting them apart. And you'll see that here in a minute. And here I'm just cutting two more pieces the same width. And here I'm cutting them apart. So I decided that, I like the size of these. I'm just going to use those like that on the page. And here you can see where the pages are loose. I hadn't bound the book yet because I was going to go ahead and plan my pages out and put them together before binding the book, but I ended up deciding to bind the book and then put the pages together. So here I'm just inking up the edges with some brown ink. Can't remember the name of this ink, but it's from Ranger Photo something. Anyway, so I'm just doing it the lazy way. I'm just putting them all together and just, instead of doing one at a time, which is like too much trouble. And so I'm just, was inking up like the whole bunch of them together. So here, like I said, I decided to go ahead and bind my book together. And here it's bound now, and I'm going through and laying out, my month. So here I'm putting January down with that grid. And then I'm looking at my calendar to see, I'm just using some Elmer's Craft Bond Permanent glue stick, and it's like I had to go back over some of these, the corners and stuff a couple times just to get it to stick down well, but I guess for the most part it did a good job. So here I'm just putting in the days for January 2022 across, and I kind of made a mistake here because at the end I'm like, oh, I got 31 days. What do I do with that 31? So I'm like, well, I'll divide that last one in half, put 31. And I'm like, wait a minute, if the 30th is on Saturday, which I didn't realize this till later, but I did go back and fix it. 30th is on January, or on Saturday. The 31st isn't going to be on Saturday as well. It's going to be on Sunday. And then I figured, that I could put like some of the leftover pattern paper from making my pages on the other side if I wanted to, have some kind of pattern paper over there. And then I'm like, I want to put a tab, some kind of a tab on at least the pages that has the month on there, so it'd be easier to flip through. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just taking some of the paper and made a little tab. And I guess I decided to use a different color paper here. So I just took a rectangular piece, folded it in half, glued it, and then stuck it down on the page. So there, I got the tab on there, and then I go to the next page and I decide to do the first week. But the first week it only has 2 days. The first and the second is Friday and Saturday. So I cut my week in half, so I only have 2 days, or cut the rest of it off. And then I fixed those marks at the bottom, so that they don't go all the way down. And here's where I'm deciding on, how to put some pattern paper behind this, because I wanted to put it on this other page and leave the right side to add some text blocks too for tasks and for other things, and then glue this down. Now this is the only week where I decided to have just the days in the month, and I'll explain all that here a little bit later on. And I'll explain several things that I could have done differently, several things that I kind of, made a mistake on, but you'll see that in the end when I do like a flip through once I get all of this together. Anyway, so here I got my weekly view, and I want to put it on the other page, but again, I wanted to put something behind it, so I got some pattern paper, and you can see it's just regular copy paper I used to print these on, so it's kind of thin and it's see-through, but I don't really care. It doesn't bother me whatsoever. So I cut that piece, to go down behind my weekly view, and end up gluing that down. And then I end up writing on, each day, I wrote the day, and then I wrote the date. Like I wrote Sunday, well, the 2 days was Friday and Saturday. So I did like Friday, January 1st, Saturday, January 2nd. So I also wanted the date too, of course, so that I can keep track. And so I went ahead and wrote that out on each day of the week to get, that started. So one thing I did do is I decided to go through and plan out write out every month and every week for the year. Instead of gluing it down and then writing it out, I went ahead and wrote out each one and then glued them down. So I sat on the couch, wrote all these out, glued all these down. So here's the finished book. And as you can see, each month has a tab. So that way it makes it easier to be able to flip to the different months. And the one thing that I would have done differently is maybe stamped out the day for each month and then printed them off. But instead of stamping them over and over again and writing out the days for each week and then printing those off instead of having to write them out over and over again, because I had to write it out like 365 times. And at the end of the book there was extra pages, and I realized that instead of putting the month on one and then the full view on the second page, I ended up putting them both on one page, which ended up giving me extra pages at the end. So wasn't too happy about that, but it is what it is. So I'll do something with those extra pages. I don't know what, but I'll figure something out to do with them. And I figure I'll do a table of contents in the beginning for each month, like page January from this page to that page, and then anything else that I put in the back I will also note in the beginning. So here I'm just showing you the Craft Bond permanent glue I used, but still I keep finding edges and corners that aren't down all the way, and here's where I show you that I fixed that. I just whited it out and then moved it over to Sunday where it should be. And like I said, January was the only day where I just did the 2 days, and I have extra paper that I can use on some of these pages, or I did use on some of the pages that were blank. I decided that I liked the weekly view on the page that had pattern, so I put it there, and I figured I could add pattern paper to the other page if I decide to. And there you can see the pattern paper, because both those pages were blank and white. And one other thing I did do is I did not break up the weeks. Like you see, March has 4 days and then it goes into April. So what I did was I just ran them together so that way I have a full week on one and then April, and then I start with the next week afterwards. So I mean that works out okay, and I just know that when I get to April, the first couple of days is on the page before. And so anyway, yeah, I'm just, was talking here about my plan and how I didn't quite stick to the plan, but that's okay. It all worked out well in the end. Everything got put together. I think everything's going to be fine. I'm really excited to work in this. So the next video, I will show you how I go through and decorate the cover and the first couple of pages. So I hope you come back for that. And thank you for watching. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.